all been waiting for. The tension is building. Are you ready? It's time for the final countdown. Let's count down together. The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Not every bad decision is made by a bad leader. Not every bad decision is made by a bad leader. Sometimes a good leader makes a terrible decision because they've been making decisions for everybody all day for too long. Sometimes a good leader makes a terrible decision simply because they've been making decisions for everybody all day for too long. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everybody. And thank you for tuning in to another episode of Leadership Unscripted. I want to thank everybody for continuously supporting this platform. So tonight, I want to begin with 4 words that might save a leader from making a terrible decision. Don't answer that yet. Think about that. So you're not going to say, I don't know. Not, I can't handle it. Not, I'm avoiding the issue. No, simply, I don't need to make this decision in this condition. Because tonight we're talking about something that doesn't get enough attention in leadership. Good leaders can make bad decisions when they are tired. So we've all experienced this. It's 7 in the morning. You're fresh. Someone asks you a question. You listen. You think. You respond carefully. Now fast forward. It's now 6:30 p.m. You've had 12 conversations, 4 meetings, 35 emails, 2 unexpected problems. Someone called in sick. A customer called in to complain. Your boss wants something. Your family is messaging. Your phone hasn't stopped. You've been making decisions since you woke up. Then somebody walks into your office and says, "Can I speak with you for 5 minutes?" And suddenly, your 5-minute conversation becomes a decision that affects someone's career. So here's tonight's question. Are you making that decision based on wisdom or based on exhaustion? So let's find out who's in the room. On a scale of 1 to 10, how mentally tired are you right now? 1 means completely refreshed. 10 means please don't ask me to decide anything. So on a scale of 1 to 10, let me see the numbers. On a scale of 1 to 10, how mentally tired are you right now? I may be at about 4 or 5. Today wasn't so much of a stressful day. Kaf says 8. How mentally frustrated, how mentally tired are you now? Kaf said 8, Dolphin said 6. Now here's another question. Brandy says 5. Mandy said 6. So here's another question. Have you ever sent a message while tired or frustrated that you regretted the next morning? Have you ever sent a message while you're tired or when you're frustrated, and the next morning you regret sending that message? Brandy says, yep. Dolphin says, yeah, I'm guilty of that. And I suspect we're about to discover that we are not alone. A lot of us have sent messages when we are tired. We've responded. We responded to messages, emails when we are tired, when we are frustrated. And the next day when we reflect and when we're in our right mind, we say, oh wow, I shouldn't have responded in that way. So we talk about leadership tools, strategic plans. We talk about budgets, policies, technologies, dashboards, performance indicators. But we forget one of the most important pieces of leadership equipment: the leader's own cognitive capacity. We don't talk about that enough. I have a PhD in leadership, and that is not part of that program. You hardly find people talking about the cognitive capacity of leaders during courses, during leadership courses. It is hardly a focal point. They'll talk about policies, improvement plans, they'll talk about a lot of things. But who really stopped to examine the cognitive capacity of leaders? When we're offering professional development, do they really offer professional development for leaders that focus on their cognitive capacity? How much are they handling? Are they equipped to handle that amount of pressure? Are we focusing on that? So your brain is making decisions all day. Important ones, unimportant ones. Who attends the meeting? Approve this, reject that, respond now, wait, who handles this? What should I say? Should I intervene? Is it urgent? Which problem comes first? And decisions don't happen in isolation. They accumulate. And this is where the idea of decision fatigue becomes useful. Decision fatigue. So researchers have debated exactly how decision fatigue operates and how large its effects are in different settings. So I don't want to oversimplify the science, but the practical leadership principle is difficult to dispute. Our judgment is affected by our condition. Our judgment is affected by our condition. When we are tired, sometimes our judgment is not the best. And sometimes leaders make poor decisions simply because they're tired, they're exhausted. And that's a fact. And that does not make you a bad leader. You've been pouring into everybody all day, dealing with issues all day. But if you don't know when to step back and breathe and give your mentals that time to rest, your mental capacity will be overburdened. And that's when you make bad decisions. So remember, our judgment is affected by our condition. So remember, fatigue matters. Stress matters. Hunger matters. Emotion matters. Information overload matters. Time pressure matters. And that's why experienced leaders don't only manage decisions, they manage the conditions under which important decisions are made. And what are those conditions? You can't be fatigued. If you're stressed, you go de-stress. If you're hungry, you have your meal. You can't make decisions when you're full of too much emotions. When there's too much information, there's information overload. You try to sift through. Sometimes making decisions under too much pressure. All of those contribute to the quality and type of decision you make. So as leaders, it is important that we manage the conditions under which we make important decisions. So let's conduct an experiment tonight. Now, so imagine somebody sends you this message. Jamaica, thank you for coming back. Imagine somebody sends you this message. Can we talk? I'm really disappointed with how you handled what happened today. You receive that message at 9 a.m. After a good night's sleep, how might you respond? Perhaps, absolutely, let's talk. I'd like to understand your concerns. Now imagine receiving exactly the same message at 9 p.m. after one of the worst days you've had all year. Suddenly, your response is, excuse me, after everything I did today? Or let me tell you something. Same message. Same, Cav says you're lucky. Exactly. Same message. Same leader. Different condition. And that's important. Because sometimes we think this is who I am. No. Sometimes this is who you are when depleted. Sometimes this is who you are when depleted. And leadership maturity requires knowing the difference. And that's why the condition under which you make decisions, the conditions under which you respond to people matter. It matters. When you're fresh in the morning, if it's 9 a.m., 10 a.m. in the morning, your response will be much different to a question than if somebody asks you 6, 7 o'clock in the evening. Or just as you're about to leave work, somebody asks you a question. Your response will be different because the condition under which you're responding matter. And a lot of people don't understand that. Jamaica says circumstances make people talk to you talk to you differently. And a lot of people don't understand that. A lot of people don't understand the level of pressure leaders come under. So when you approach them with a question, you have to be mindful of the time and when. And if you're a leader, when someone asks you a question or request some information from you, if you are tired, nothing is wrong to say, we will have this discussion in the morning. You realize that it's an important response, but you don't want to give a hasty response. So nothing is wrong. Tomorrow, we will have this discussion. If I'm tired, I won't push it. Tiredness is a real thing. So which version of you makes the worst decision? Which version of you makes the worst decision? Is it the angry you, the tired you, the stressed you, the hungry you, or all of those? Which version of you make the worst decision? Is it the angry you, the tired you, the stressed you, the hungry you, or all of them? Man said, yes, all of them. For me, it's all of them. When I'm angry, I don't usually make the best decision. Renee says all. Dolphin says all. Yes. So sometimes, when people is hungry, when you're hungry and want food, and you're going all day, and because you have so many things to do, you forget to eat. That can cause you to make some rash decisions. When your body needs fuel. When you're tired, you can make some rash decisions. When you're angry at something. And when you're stressed. So we need to know when we are depleted. And when we are depleted, when we need fuel, when our mind isn't ready, we need to ensure that we put off, delay some of our responses. Do not be too quick to make decisions. Jamaica for Kids says sleep deprivation is it is. So here's where this becomes interesting. Decision fatigue doesn't necessarily mean you suddenly make some spectacularly terrible decision. Let me see what Marie says. Some leaders need to reflect on how they respond under pressure and apologize if necessary. So decisions fatigue doesn't necessarily mean you suddenly make some spectacularly terrible decision. No. Sometimes it looks much quieter. It can look like avoidance. I'll deal with it tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes next week. It can look like impulsivity. Fine, just do it. It can look like irritability. A reasonable question suddenly feels like an attack. It can look like defaulting. Just do what we did last year. Not because it's the best. Because thinking about alternatives require energy. It requires energy. So sometimes you just do what you want to do. Don't do the same thing you did last week. You're tired. And instead of pausing, refuel, step away and just ensure that your mind, your mental capacity is ready. You don't do that. You make decisions. And tomorrow morning, somebody walk into your office and say, just do the same thing we did last year. Just do the same thing. And tomorrow morning when you walk in, and that person worked hard and did the same thing they did last year, and when you walk in tomorrow, you'll say, oh God, you're not pleased. Some brand new ideas and better ways of doing it is now in front of you. But because you made that decision yesterday, you'd have wasted your time with a bad decision. And you'd have wasted someone else's time. So we have to be careful. We have to be careful. Let me see what the chat is saying here. But you have some leaders that never apologize. Bosses are always pressured. That's no reason to shout. That's true, and I agree with you. I agree with you. I agree with you. I agree with you. I totally agree with you. So when we're required to think alternatives, it takes energy, you know. It takes energy. And a complex human problem gets reduced to they're just lazy. And sometimes it looks like decision paralysis. You keep asking for more information because you no longer have the mental capacity to decide. Have you ever been in that situation? So here's a leadership question. What decision should exhausted leaders never make? What decision should exhausted leaders, when you're exhausted, what decision should you never make? If every day they're tired, it's constantly poor decisions. And that's so true. That's so true. Man, this is hiring and firing. Brandy Simons, I'm in that position right now. When you're tired, but people need to know that when the leader is tired, they need time. Rest is important. Jamaica, okay, money decisions. You can't make money decisions when you're exhausted. Hiring and firing. So when it comes down to personal decisions, disciplinary decisions, major financial decisions, relationship decisions. When you're exhausted, do not make relationship decisions too. Sending emotionally charged emails. Marie says changing policies or procedures. Exactly when you're exhausted. Sending emotionally charged emails. Firing someone. Accepting a resignation. Making a major purchase. Responding publicly to criticism. Those are things you should not do. Do not do it when you're exhausted. They are bound to be the wrong decisions. With kids, we put off disciplining them and they continue, which makes them rude. So here's one scenario. Make no decisions at all when exhausted. Be aware of limitations and give it a rain check. I agree with you, Renee. When you're exhausted, step away. Yes. Yes. You'll blunder. You'll blunder. So here's tonight's scenario. And tonight, there isn't an obvious answer. So there isn't an obvious answer. You're the leader of an organization. You're the leader of an organization. And when I tell you at nights, because I want you to start dreaming big, you know. When I tell you to pretend to be a leader, if you're already a leader, but you know that leadership role is not your dream leadership role, picture in your head. Start putting in the atmosphere that leadership role you aspire to. Because when I'm asking you to pretend for a scenario, and we're asking about pretending to be leader, I'm not pretending to be no principal, no. I want glass office. CEO style, yes. That's what I'm pretending. So we're pretending tonight. So pretend you're the leader of an organization. It's 5:47 p.m. on Friday. 5:47 p.m. on Friday. You've been at work since 6:45 a.m. this morning. The week has been brutal. You were up late the night before. You've eaten almost nothing. You're surviving on coffee. You're supposed to leave in 15 minutes for an important family commitment. Then one of your managers walks in. They tell you an employee has made a serious mistake. The mistake has created a major problem. The manager is angry. They say, we need to suspend this person immediately. They show you some evidence. It looks really bad. Then they say, I need your decision before we leave today. Your first reaction is, suspend them. No. What do you do? Is that the right decision? Your first reaction is to suspend them. But what do you do? A, make the decision because leadership requires decisiveness. B, refuse to decide until Monday. C, take whatever immediate action is necessary to manage risk, but postpone the final personal decision until you've reviewed the evidence properly. Or D, delegate the entire decision to somebody else. What would you do? Brandy says it goes based on the patterns. What would you do? What would you do? What would you do in such a situation? C, take what Marie says C. Dolphin says C, take whatever immediate action is necessary to manage the risk, but postpone the final personal decision until you've reviewed the evidence properly. Jamaican, you take tax. Scarf said C. And you're all correct. You're all correct. As the manager, take immediate action necessary to manage whatever problem the employee has created. Try to manage it. But do not disrupt, do not make such a life-altering decision about someone's life because you're tired and frustrated and when you're exhausted. Don't do that. Don't do that. Do not make decisions when you're frustrated or when emotion is running wild. Don't do that. And do not make serious decisions based on second-hand information. Find out for yourself. And Nikki B says, also will need time to speak with the employee before making final decisions. Yes. Because all you're hearing just one side of the story. One side of the story. You can't do that. Now let's examine it. There may be situations where immediate action is absolutely necessary because of safety, legal obligations, financial exposure, safeguarding, operational risk. But you cannot simply say, I'm tired, we'll deal with it Monday. No, leadership still has responsibilities. But there's a difference between taking an immediate protection action and making an irreversible final decision. Jamaica Kid says, I believe in hearing and mediation. Exactly. And that's the distinction. Taking an immediate protective action versus making an irreversible final decision. You can't just jump up and fire the person. What if when you fire that person on spot and when you come to work on Monday with fresh mind, fresh brain, fresh thinking, and when you happen to review the information, you realize that the person wasn't at fault. Or even if they were at fault, it didn't meet the threshold for them to be fired. How do you feel in yourself? So mentioning that you are tired is unprofessional too. You can't say that as exactly as HR and management. You can't say that. So perhaps you temporarily remove someone from a sensitive responsibility while facts are established. Perhaps you secure information. Perhaps you contact the appropriate people. Perhaps you preserve the evidence. But do you make a life-changing decision at 5:47 p.m. when you're hungry, you're angry, you're rushing to get out, and you're exhausted? When it doesn't have to be finalized at 5:47 p.m.? That's a great leadership judgment. You can't do that. You can't do that. Because urgency and importance are not the same thing. Remember that. In leadership, urgency and importance, they are not the same thing. They are not the same thing. Thank you, Ms. Florence, for joining. Thank you so very much. In leadership, urgency and importance are not the same thing. Exactly, at 5:47 p.m., I'm thinking to go out the door. I don't have time I cannot make a decision at that time. I'm tired. And other people's urgency should not automatically become your impulsivity. So when that leader barges in your office and is demanding that you reprimand another employee, no. Their urgency should not automatically become your impulsivity. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. So now I want to challenge another leadership badge of honor. Here's what most leaders say. And they think it's a badge of honor. I am always available. Your leaders say that I'm always available. And they think they wear it as a badge of honor. Come to me, I'm always available. Are you sure that's healthy? Because if everybody has unrestricted access to your decision-making capacity, you may spend your entire day reacting to other people's priorities. Not true. Great leaders need accessibility, yes, but accessibility without boundaries becomes interruption. So when people walk around with this badge of honor, always come to me, I'm always available. You can't do that. That can't be healthy. That cannot be healthy as a leader. You're not running on an ever non-ending battery. It cannot be healthy as a leader. Leaders must be accessible, yes. But accessibility without boundaries becomes interruption. Because you can be sitting at your desk. And because you're always open to everybody. And everybody's walk out. And you're at your desk and you're trying to make a decision. You're trying to respond to an email. It can become interruption. There comes a time when the leader needs time by themselves to calm the mind. To pay attention to what they're doing so they don't make wrong decision, or they don't become exhausted and make the wrong decision. Worse if you're an emotion. Exactly. Worse if you are emotional. The door cannot always be open. And people need to understand that sometimes you're one person leading 50. You're one person leading 50. Sometimes they need to give you a break, and you need to know, set those boundaries to take those breaks. Renzo says, hence why work is very important. Very, very, very important. Very important. Very, very important. So as I said before, accessibility without boundaries becomes interruption. And constant interruption fragments your thinking. So there are decisions that require silence. There are decisions that require information. There are decisions that require perspective. There are decisions that require consultation. It requires some time. And sometimes sleep. There are some decisions that require you to sleep on it. There are some decisions that require silence, more information, other perspective, consultation, time, and sometimes some decisions you need to sleep on it. Sleep on it. Let it marinate before you make that decision. So leadership is not a 24-hour emergency room. Leadership is not a 24-hour emergency room where every question requires an immediate answer. And Marie says sometimes a second opinion. Leadership is not a 24-hour emergency room where every decision, every question requires an immediate answer. It's not. So one of the most mature sentences a leader can learn is, I want to think about that before I answer. I want to think about that before I answer. That doesn't make you indecisive. No. Sometimes it means you understand the weight of your decision. And nothing is wrong with asking for time to think before you respond. Doesn't make you indecisive. It means you simply understand the weight of your decision and you want to be careful, you want to think it through. So I want to give you something practical tonight. Something really practical. Last night we did I care. Tonight I'm going to give you something another. And I want to do something practical. So research on judgment and decision making consistently shows that context matters. Cognitive load, sleep loss, stress, and emotional states can influence attention and decision quality. What did I say? Cognitive load, sleep loss, stress, and emotional states can influence attention and the quality of your decision. There are also research on sleep deprivation, for example, has linked insufficient sleep with impaired executive functioning and decision making. So there's research out there that tells you when you don't sleep, when you don't sleep, it is linked with impaired executive functioning. You're not thinking straight, and it affects decision making. So before making a high consequence decision, I want leaders to use something simple. Before you make a high consequence decision, I want leaders to use something simple. One of my moderators, please type this in the chat for me. We're going to be spelling the word pause. P-A-U-S-E. Pause. So before you make a high consequence decision, we're going to use this acronym PAUSE. And the P, physiology. P, physiology. What condition am I in right now? What condition am I in right now? Am I tired? Am I hungry? Am I angry? Am I overstimulated? Am I unwell? Am I in an highly emotional state right now? That isn't weakness. It isn't. It's data. It's data. Because if your body is telling you that your capacity is compromised, factor that into the decision. So when your body is compromised, your capacity is compromised, you need to factor that. And that is the physiology. A now, affect. Affect. A is affect. That's simply your emotional state. What am I feeling? And is that emotion trying to make the decision for me? That affect. What am I feeling? And is that emotion trying to make the decision for me. So when you're angry, it says, punish them. When you're in fear, it says, avoid it, please. When ego kicks in, it says, prove you're right. Prove who is boss around here. Anxiety says, do something immediately. Compassion might say, ignore the problem. Remember, emotion provides information. It should not automatically receive voting control. Your emotion, it gives you information, but it should not automatically receive voting control. So we did P, physiology. What condition am I in now? A, affect. What am I feeling? And is that emotion trying to make the decision? Am I making this decision based on my emotion? Ask yourself that. U, urgency. Urgency. Does this actually need to be decided now? Not, does somebody want an answer now? Different question. What happens if I wait 10 minutes, 1 hour, or overnight until I receive additional information? If waiting creates significant risk, then you need to act. If waiting improves decision quality without creating meaningful risk, wait. So if waiting creates risk, you have to act. If it's an emergency, you have to act. But when you wait, look at it and say, if I wait until tomorrow, I know I will make a better decision. Wait. As I said earlier, leadership is not a 24-hour emergency room. No, you don't need to have the answer at the same time, no. And the S now, stakes. S is stakes. How difficult is this decision to reverse? When I make this decision, if it's a wrong decision, how difficult will it be to reverse? If it's simply choosing, you want to choose what you want for lunch, that's low stakes. Terminating someone's employment, that's high stake. Sending an angry message, high stake. Signing a major contract, high stake. The higher the stake, the less comfortable you should be making the decision while you're cognitively depleted. The higher the stake, the more uncomfortable you should be. Shouldn't be comfortable making that decision while you're cognitively depleted. And the E is evidence. So finally, what do I actually know? Not what have I heard? What am I assuming? What does one angry person believe? What do I feel happened? What evidence do I have? No. The evidence is, what do I actually know? What do I actually know about the situation? What is the real information I have in front of me from all sides that will allow me to make an informed decision? So remember, before making a decision, pause. And it's in the group, it's in the chat. P, physiology. What condition am I in right now? The A, affect. Am I in an emotional state, and is my emotion about to make this decision for me? U is urgency. Does this actually need to be decided on right now, or can I wait to have some more time to think about it? The S, stakes. How difficult is this decision to reverse if I make it now while I'm exhausted, or while I'm in this mental state, while my head is not so clear, while I'm frustrated? How difficult will this decision be to reverse if I make the decision now? And the E, evidence. What evidence do I actually have? Am I making a decision based on what someone has told me? Based on hearsay? Based on assumption? Or am I making this decision based on the facts? And that's why before you make any decision, pause. 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 And this connects with this book, The Teaching and Learning Leader. It connects strongly with this book, The Teaching and Learning Leader. So if you see, effective leadership isn't merely about making decisions. It is not. It's about creating systems that improve the quality of decision making. So that's why leaders need reliable data, distributed leadership, clear processes, trusted advisors, not them advisors who want favor, who want to remain in your good graces, so they bring false information. Not those gossiping advisors, no, trusted advisors. Leaders want effective teams. Because if every important decision has to travel through one exhausted person, you haven't built a strong organization. You've built a bottleneck. If every important decision has to travel through one exhausted mind, one exhausted body, you haven't built a strong organization. What you've built is a bottleneck. Because leadership capacity means other competent people can think, assess, recommend, challenge, and sometimes tell the leader, I don't think you should decide on this tonight. And that's a powerful organization culture. When you have people on your team that says, sir and ma'am, don't make that decision now. Go home and think about it. Or let's make that decision tomorrow, sir. Let's not make it today. That's a powerful team you would have created there. And when you're not the only one making decisions, there are other people on the team. Good advisors. Not news carriers. Good advisors. Trusted advisors. You have clear processes. You make use of distributed leadership so you're not carrying all the weight. And remember, the people on the team is effective. That's when you have built a strong organization. And that's when you don't have to burden yourself with all decisions. And it also connects differently with the psychology of fragility, yes? It connects differently. And today, you see, today I had a discussion with someone today because they had a moment of fragile mindset. And I had to call them out on it. And I had a frank discussion with them today. And they actually agreed to say, you know, that I wasn't thinking clearly for a moment. So fragile systems often depend too heavily on one individual. One person knows everything. One person approves everything. One person solves everything. One person carries everything. At first, that person will feel indispensable. But indispensable can become vulnerability. Because what happens when that person becomes exhausted, or they get sick, or they become overwhelmed, or they're just unavailable? Their cognitive overload becomes the organization's risk. And there's a personal fragility too. Some leaders struggle to say, I need time. Why? Because they think leaders are supposed to know everything. Leaders must respond immediately, confidently, every time. But sometimes the most secure leaders in the room is the person who's willing to say, I really don't have enough information to make that decision as yet. That's a responsible leader who let you know, I really cannot make that decision now. I don't have enough information. And I want to make a responsible decision. And that's not weakness. That's judgment. Remember that. So here's a practical, let me see, what time is it? Okay, I'm on time. So here's something practical I want you to experiment with this week. It's Tuesday. I want you to experiment with this week. Not every decision can wait. But for non-emergency, emotionally charged, high-impact decisions, create space whenever possible. So we're agreeing that some decisions can't wait, but the non-emergency ones, the ones you're too overly emotional about, with high impact decisions, create space whenever possible, especially emails. So if you're angry, write it, don't send it. Come back later and ask yourself, does this still need to be said? Does it need to be said this way? Does it need to be said by email? So there are messages that feel brilliant at 11:38 p.m. and look completely different at 7:30 a.m. Never confuse the relief of sending something with the wisdom of sending it. That's a line to remember. Never confuse the relief of sending something with the wisdom of sending it. So I want to finish tonight with something different. So think about the worst leadership decision you've made in the last year. Don't type it. Just think. Now ask yourself, was I missing information? Was I rushing? Was I emotional? Was I exhausted? Was I trying to please someone? Was I under pressure? Did I make the decision alone when I should have consulted someone? And most importantly, what system have I changed so I don't make that decision the same way again? Because reflection without change is just regret. So when you reflect and you identify your mistake, if you don't change, that's just regret. You didn't really put the reflection to work. So I want you to finish this sentence for me. I make my worst decision when I'm what? I'm going to say when I'm rushed. When I'm rushed, I tend to make my worst decision. When do you make your worst decision? Let me hear from you. When do you make your worst decision? Mandy says when I'm angry. Dolphin says when I'm tired. When I'm rushed, I tend not to make the best decision. I don't like to be rushed. I like to read. I like to research. I want to look into things. I don't like to be rushed. Sometimes people make their worst decision when they're afraid, when they're tired. Nikki said, when I'm hungry or emotionally exhausted, yes. But there are times that it is good that we know when we don't make good decisions. Because since we know when we don't make good decisions, we're going to always learn to pause. We're going to use the acronym PAUSE. We're going to pause because we don't want our emotion or our state, the exhausted state we're in, to influence our decision. So we're going to learn to pause. We're going to practice pausing. It is good that we know our blind spot. My blind spot is when I'm rushed to make a decision. I don't make a good decision. Nikki's blind spot when she is hungry or emotionally exhausted. Dolphin, tired. Mandy, when she's angry. So since we know our blind spot, Marie says stressed. Since we know our blind spot, we're going to pause. We're going to pause before we make that decision. So tonight isn't an excuse for poor leadership. It isn't. So you cannot say, sorry, I fired everybody, I was tired. Can you say that? Can you say, oh, sorry, I fired them then because I was just tired, I fired everybody? Accountability still matters. But leadership requires us to recognize something incredibly human. The person making the decision affects the quality of the decision. The person making the decision ultimately affects the quality of the decision. And when I say the person, what do I mean? Your state of mind matters. Your systems matter. The information you have matters. Timing matters. Your emotional regulation matters. Dolphins, I really hope some leaders are listening tonight. I have learned so much about myself tonight. Thank you very much, Dolphin, for that. So the person I'm talking about, your state of mind, the systems you have in place, the amount of information you have, timing, Emotional regulation matters. And sometimes the greatest evidence of leadership isn't making a decision quickly. No. It's knowing which decision deserves the best version of you. Because some decisions go sleep on it. Some decisions sleep on it. So tomorrow, before the difficult email, before the disciplinary conversation, before the financial commitment, before making a major announcement, before you make a decision that affects somebody else's life, remember, pause. Physiology, affect, urgency, stakes, evidence. And ask yourself, am I making this decision because it is right, or because I'm too exhausted to think any longer? Because good leaders can make bad decisions. And sometimes the smartest decisions a tired leader can make is deciding not to decide yet. Sometimes the smartest decision a tired and exhausted leader can make is deciding not to decide yet. Good night, everyone. This has been Leadership Unscripted, where we have real conversation, discuss real leadership issues, and we focus on real impact. Thank you so very much for joining me tonight. I really appreciate the support. I really appreciate the support. Appreciate the support. Thank you, Marie. Thank you, Kav. Thank you for that. Healing Arts Journey. Thank you. Thank you so very much. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Remember, the live will be uploaded to my YouTube channel. It will also be uploaded to this TikTok page as well. Thank you so very much.
So here I am to worship. Here I am to bow.
Thank you, Marie.
Here I am to say that
You're my God.
you're altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful to me. Let's sing it again. So here I am to worship, here I am to bow down, here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether lovely, altogether worthy.
And what I'm asking you, when we post the live on the TikTok page, I would appreciate if the live was beneficial to you, once it is posted, leave a comment. Because that is how we drive people to the platform, when you leave a comment. If you've learned anything, when the live is posted, you'll see the topic for whichever live you've been a part of. Just leave a comment. Leave a comment, because that is how we drive traffic to the platform. Share it with people. Share it, because that is how we will drive people to the platform. And remember, follow my YouTube page, Dr. Dale. I'm on YouTube, Dr. Dale. I'm on YouTube as well. Please follow my YouTube channel. All my presentations. I think I have over 30 presentations on YouTube now. All my presentations are uploaded on my YouTube channel. And since last week, I started putting them on my TikTok platform as well. But all my presentations can be found on my YouTube channel. Thank you so very much. I had a long day, so I'm going to take some rest now. Have a wonderful night. See you guys tomorrow at 8:30. And our topic for tomorrow night, let me tell you before you go. Our topic for tomorrow night is stop protecting systems that no longer work. That's our topic for tomorrow night. Stop protecting systems that no longer work. That's our topic for tomorrow night. See you. That is it for Leadership Unscripted tonight. Thank you very much.